welcome to Blackfeather Guild. Before we go in and say hi to the cast and get started with the show, I wanted to talk very briefly about viewer actions and a little bit about sponsors. So first off, there's a number of ways that you can actually actively participate in the show through viewer actions. One of the easiest ways to do so is through retweeting the game tweet. You should see that somewhere in chat if it's not in there already. But you just click on that link and hit retweet, and for every 5 retweets that we get on that, it will add a bonus to the cast pool and the game master pool. Now, in most cases, that's going to be an extra d6 that they can add on to any roll. Basically, a great way to use that is if a player is almost meeting a DC, but they're just not quite there, they can grab one of those d6s from the cast pool, roll that, and then add that to their roll. Basically, is how that works. Same with the GM. So that's one of the easiest ways that you can participate that way. Another way is through guild coins. That's our Twitch channel points. If you look at the rainbow colored icon, it should have the Blackfeather Guild crest on it. It should be right below your Twitch chat box. If you click on that, it'll show you all the different things that you can get with those. The biggest one being plot points. Now, plot points, you can see an example right over here. They all work pretty much the same way. It's just a matter of how big of an impact they have. So for the example, when we've got 2 plot points, the player of your choice gets something moderately helpful or unhelpful. Enter any suggestions for the GM into chat, or you can have the GM come up with something entirely on their own. So just choose if you want it to be helpful or unhelpful to the party, and that's kind of how you can use them. You can throw in your own suggestions as well. How those work: 1 plot point is something trivially helpful or unhelpful. 2 is moderately, 3 is very, and 4 is very to the entire party. So if you want to do something to help the entire party or really throw a monkey wrench in their plans, 4 plot points will do that. So that's guild coins. And then finally, we've got donations. So if you want to help out with keeping the lights on in the place, so to speak, there's a number of ways that you can financially contribute. One of those being coffee.com/Raven or raven.rocks. You can see both of those examples down there at the bottom. Those are the addresses to do direct donations. You can also do Twitch subscriptions or bits. Those work the same way. And then finally, Patreon. We've got a Patreon, which you should see in chat here any second if it's not there already. And our Bard tier patrons and higher get credits towards viewer actions every month that they can use on any show that they would like. You just have to let us know in chat how you want to spend those, and then we'll hand those out. So some very cool stuff. Before we hop over to see the cast, one last thing to mention is a couple things on this chart here. We've already covered the D6 and the plot points, but the triple crits, what that means is you can gift auto critical successes. And you can, it's triple because you get 3. You can divvy those out however you'd like. You can do 2 to the cast, 1 to the game master, all of them to the game master, however you want to do it. So they work much like the D6s. The cast members just grab that when they're available and they really need them and use them. So it's pretty cool. And then finally, the last one, introduce an ally or enemy NPC. Just give us a brief description of what you want this character to look like, kind of their character concept and a name, and let us know if you want it to be an enemy or an ally to the party, and the GM will basically take that and run with it. So really cool ways that you can participate. Lastly, I just want to take a quick moment to mention our sponsors. If you look at the logos down below, that's who's sponsoring this episode, and we'll talk a little bit about that before we introduce everybody as well on the next scene. So yeah, check all this stuff out, and thank them for supporting us, and thank you for being here and watching. Let's go say hi to the cast. Hey, welcome everybody. We're back for some more Exodus. And oops. We got a couple cameras swapped here. I'll fix that. Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. A little bit different today. We are currently missing Yasmin, who plays Bambi. So we're going to do a little character background stuff today. So it'll be fun. Before we jump into all that, though, I'll let everybody introduce themselves. Usually start at the top left, so I'll go first. I'm Raven. I'm the creative director for the Raven Evermore, which includes all sorts of stuff like designing tabletop games, doing jamming and voice acting and a whole bunch of other stuff, graphic design as well. You can find out all about that at my Twitter, which is right below my face. And then I play Niklaus Sebastian Adama, as well as quote-unquote Klaus, sort of an alter ego. Yeah, Niklaus is kind of a rich bastard. He's snarky and sarcastic and condescending. He's not the nicest person. And then he's got sort of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation where Klaus comes out because of a substance that he experimented with. And Klaus is more chaotic, evil, aggressive, and a bit Joker-like. He's a little wild. But yeah, that's me and my character, and I'll pass it on over to Rowan.
Hello, I am Rowan. I'm a freelance illustrator and art educator. I also make like watercolors, handmade watercolors. I specifically say that because they're on my first set's on pre-order right now, and I'll probably talk about that more after the stream, but yeah, I'll put a link in the chat. I play Pepper. Pepper is used to live on the rich side of Exodus and was the daughter of one of the big people there in Exodus. She has 2 dogs named after different hunting gods. And yeah, she's a bit crazy, as most of the people around here are. But yeah.
Awesome. And then Riley.
Hi, I'm Riley. I do all things knitting and crochet and fiber. I'll put the link to my website and shop in the chat. I play Sid. Sid is kind of like a street urchin type. She's young looking, like it's hard to place her age or anything like that. She dresses like a newsie, very boyish, has short hair. Sydney's always seen with her little transistor radio that she will compulsively take apart and put back together, which sometimes annoys Niklaus a little bit, but that's okay. She is kind of like Niklaus's apprentice slash ward, and doesn't really know the line between right and wrong, doesn't really see that line, so she'll do a lot of dirty work for Niklaus and things like that. So yeah.
Awesome. And then Vanessa, tell us a little bit about you and take it away.
Sweet. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I am the GM for this game. This is Exodus, the Sunken City. Kind of a little BioShock inspired, I guess. But yeah, I am primarily a traditional artist. I do pencil sketch and watercolor. And more recently, some more digital stuff as well, which you can check out both at my art Twitter, which is at Peppero Draws. That's Peppero like the candy. And it's there under my little Game Master icon if you want to take a look there. As well as my coffee page, which is coffee.com/Peppero Princess instead of Peppero Draws. But you can see my work there. But yeah, as for today's session, it's gonna be a little bit different, like Raven mentioned, just because we're still missing Yasmin, and I feel like everything would be a lot more fun if we wait for her to come back, especially with the Blackwoods being introduced the last session that she was here. And the Blackwoods, I feel, are going to interact very well with Bambi. So I want her to be here for that. So today I don't really have any plans. I figured we could have a little fun session, just kind of brainstorm some backgrounds and things like that. Going to be a shorter stream, I would assume. But the concept is to do little snapshots of the past. So I'm going to go around and work with each player, and we're going to take a little peep into their background, their upbringing, significant scenes or scenes of note from their past, interactions with other people that they've had that might lend a little bit to our current story, just so that the audience can see a little bit more of that side as well, but also just so the players have something more to kind of flesh out their characters. So we haven't really particularly discussed in detail any of these snapshots, but you know what? It's not going to be a stressful stream. We're not, fighting a horde of crazed splicers or anything. It's going to be very chill. We're going to work together and kind of figure out what fun things everybody's pasts have in store for us to unlock today. So that being said, I know we did have a couple of ideas thrown out to begin with. Does anybody want to start us off, or is there anything that you guys would like to see from me in terms of the NPCs? I'm open to whatever you guys want to do. You guys are at the captain's chair today. I'm gonna go along with whatever you like to do.
Well, first of all, real quick shout out to Michael for the 5,000 guild coins, redeeming one plot point, and the suggestion is at some point someone finds some knitting needles that have been sharpened. So that is something that show up today, or I have a feeling that would be something that would show up around Bambi. Just as a hunch.
So Michael, you can tell us in the chat there, would you rather us hold on to those knitting needles until next time? Or we can use them today. We can kind of poke those in somewhere. No pun intended, if you would like us to. But totally up yourself. Just let us know.
And then, yeah, the one suggestion that I had was I would love to see kind of like what everyone's first day at Exodus looked like before everything went to hell.
Okay.
Brand new ribbon cutting. Everybody's going into Exodus. What does their first day in the city look like?
Interesting. So yeah, that would fall to, I guess, Anastasia, Pepper and her grandfather. I suppose the Blackwoods, if you would like to see more of their first day. Not necessarily the first day, like ribbon cutting open the city, because everybody kind of flooded in a little bit staggered as they were invited. But we could definitely do something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to hear about that.
It's going to be a lot of me talking to myself for the NPCs, a little bit, a little bit of that. But yeah, absolutely. We can. I have not thought in great detail about that specific kind of snapshot. So this will be just as much fun for you to hear as it is for me to make up on the fly.
And just a suggestion too, depending on when Pepper Ann got to the city, that might give Rowan some opportunities to share a little bit of Pepper's more lucid days.
Yeah, true.
So, I guess if we're discussing this a little bit beforehand, I get the feeling that her grandfather would have been invited like during its construction and stuff because he was a big investor, and they probably needed his money. So probably showing him the construction and showing him around as it's being constructed.
Yeah, we can certainly do that as well. I believe Pepper would have been, what did we say? Like,
she was like
8,
seven?
6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah, somewhere around there.
Seven
when she
when
first came in.
came in, I would assume that was after construction was done. Although definitely grandfather was one of the first people there.
Yeah. The only snag that presents itself to me at this point is that I cannot remember for the life of me what the founders' names were, because they were not supposed to really come into play at all.
That's okay. If I remember,
know,
I don't remember Pepper's grandfather's name, so.
Someone was named Julian. I know that. I don't know if it was a founder or a colleague.
Bill and Tom Founderson, right?
Oh my god.
Bill Founder. Yeah. No.
I did have it written down on a sheet of paper. No idea where the sheet of paper went. So we could probably come back to it. I'm sure I can find it here. As much as I love the Bill Founderson, perhaps we'll come back to that.
If you need BS names on the spot, that's something I can do.
Or hey, people donate money. One plot point, you get to name a character. I don't know.
I know that there was a Julian. I think Julian might have been the colleague.
Wasn't he wasn't he the king of Madagascar?
No, he was the doctor on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I have no idea. Oh, hold on. I got the sheet. Michael Hayden and Foster Carey were the two founders. And Niklas's colleague was Julian Fuller.
That's right.
It was right on the top of my drawer. There we go. All right. Who wants to go first then? Who's feeling the spotlight today?
Should we go in like
we
order?
Can go in time order. It doesn't have to be, just because it's all background anyway. So we'll get to it all eventually.
Okay. Should we start with the grandfather, I guess?
Yeah, we can. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the city's construction. I know in session 0 I kind of talked about the beginning of the city, but then we kind of glossed on to the city itself. So with the construction of the city, it started, I would say, mid-40s. It was finalized in the early 50s. So, depending on the funds and how fast those funds were funneled into construction, I would say 7 years, 5, 6, 7, probably well enough time to get the basic structure of the city. And of course, it was continuously being built onto in the early years. Michael would have assured that the pieces that were there were top-notch. Everything was polished to a shine. And then it would just be those extra sections that were built on. And as they were up to standard, he would open those up to the public as well. Michael did yeah?
Speaking of Michael, thanks to Michael Wayne for that $3 donation for a plot point. And they suggested that a name of Spencer Campbell for one of the NPCs whenever there's an opportunity.
Which that's a solid name.
That's a great name.
Spencer Campbell?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Michael, I got you. I will remember that for next time.
Write that down.
Yeah, I just did. Just in case we have another spot pop up. So I will keep that on hand.
Well, we're getting into construction and stuff and random backstory people. So.
We have no idea who's going to become important later on. This is my gold mine where you guys are going to give me ideas for how I can mess you up later.
I feel like this is like a session 0.5.
Yeah, a little bit. It's the intermission.
I'm enjoying it. I'm here for it.
Okay. So yeah, there definitely would have been a section of the city that was prepped as the years went on. So Michael would have gone around, scoped out these different people that he wanted to come into his city. There was a lot of focus on people of the arts, scientists, artists, sculptors, things like that. He was very, very much into like high fashion, very just a snooty guy all around. Like he wanted the best of the best for his city. And he also wanted to provide a space that was like, don't worry about morals so much. Do what you have to do, discover what you have to discover, and the world will thank you for it later. Like we don't have to worry about what the world thinks is right or wrong, because the end justifies the means. If you're gonna find something real cool, it's gonna be here in my city, where you've been provided with the top-notch tools and things that you need to be able to create and discover and become the best that you can be. So he was very much of the mind that, he needed to find people who were already kind of doing things at the top, which is, I'm sure, how he eventually did come on to Pepper's grandfather, very wealthy man. He needed funds to be able to continue building. So, yeah. There was a lot of back and forth there.
So what I imagine is they probably met initially at some sort of like party, perhaps a gala, or perhaps he held a gala. Michael did.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of galas is to get these top tier donators, these fancy wealthy people who dress up all fancy and they have fancy food, and then make a big deal about these grandiose donations, auctions.
Could I make a suggestion?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
That the gala be an apple gala? Because then it could be a gala gala.
Are you making fun of how I said gala?
No,
also,
gala apples
you.
And gala as a party, but they're spelled the same.
Thank you guys for joining us on this stream. I know 32 minutes is rather short, but we're gonna leave now. Raven has completely ruined the whole mood. We have to leave. I don't make the rules. I'm sorry. We're gonna
the
sign
GM,
off.
you do make the rules.
Absolutely true. So you're gonna have to stop that. No, I'm kidding, of course. Okay, you know what? The theme of the gala is reds. There are lots of apple sweets and apple pastries and things like that. Does that satisfy your
death
pun?
save? Says Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, Murray.
Absolutely. So just for you, the theme is red, and there are lots of apple tarts and pastries. But yes, so I do have a feeling that the gala itself was not so much like, hey, come make donations to this project, because he would have been very selective, very secretive, especially first starting out. So, kind of like a show of wealth and to kind of get in that same spot, but there wasn't. I would say maybe he put up a pretense for a certain project that wasn't actually happening, and
so this was his talent scouting.
Yeah, pretty much. And then anybody who he thought would be good to bring in, he would say, okay, here's the actual lowdown. This is what I need from you. Are you in? I feel like Michael was probably the type of guy to be like, hey, I'm going to tell you this thing, but you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement or else I'm going to kneecap you. So, yeah. So that's how Michael would have gotten a hold of Pepper's grandfather. Do you want to give him a name just so that we can stop calling him Pepper's grandfather?
I'm thinking Jeremy McGillicuddy.
Jeremy, okay.
So I'm just going to write that down myself.
Jeremy McGillicuddy. Okay, I have to make a habit of writing down all names just in case they become important in the future.
Yeah.
All right.
So probably middle name because he's so fancy. Let's do Jeremy Fitzgerald McGillicuddy.
That name.
Okay. That's Gerald. I spelled it wrong like 7 times, but that's okay.
Fitzgerald.
I think it's because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that I really started to enjoy that name because of Fitz.
Yes.
Lovely.
It's a fun name. It's a fun name to say.
All right. So in this first snapshot, then, Michael living topside. His house it's grand, it's large, but it's not too conspicuous. Like you would look at it and say, oh, okay, somebody with money lives there. But he hasn't gone out of his way to make it the biggest, the most beautiful, the most eye-catching. Because obviously he's going to want to fit in with that demographic. But the point is not to stick out the most. It's to get what he needs to get and then move on. Because he doesn't have any plans to stay topside. Obviously, he wants to create his city and then move there. That's his plan. So he would need a fancy home just to bring in that crowd. And he is setting up this gala for his potential investors. So yeah, Jeremy gets an invitation to this. It shows up for him one day. It's in a very heavy envelope, very nice paper stationery, and it has Michael's little seal on it. Probably not something that's super well known to Jeremy. Like he doesn't look at it and go, ah, yes, this is Michael Hayden. I know exactly who this chap is. It's not something like that, but it's clearly nice. Like he would open this and be like, okay, this is somebody who has money. This is a good family, good name. And there's no additional fanfare about it. There's nothing super interesting. It's just a plain card with really nice handwriting on it. You're invited, and the address, and some generic fancy message like you are cordially invited to join Michael Hayden at his home at 123 Apple Drive, and all that good stuff. So yeah. What is Jeremy's initial reaction to receiving this? It's just a card. It's not fancy. There's nothing extra to it. It's a heavy card, and there's nobody there to explain. It's dropped off. There's no servant to stay in.
Yeah, I think that when it's delivered to him, it's definitely like his staff servants that bring it to his desk. And I think initially he's about to throw it away, but then the name Michael Hayden catches his attention because this guy is. I would assume Michael Hayden has worked in different projects in the past. That's a name that is familiar, but not so crazy familiar that people are like, "Oh yes, Michael. This is a Michael Hayden original."
Yeah, I would probably say that Michael does. Or had dipped his fingers into certain projects before just to kind of network a little bit. So yeah,
okay.
I would say it's not unusual that he might kind of read the name and go, that kind of rings a bell.
As Jeremy is a investor, and that's his job by nature, I assume that there has been projects perhaps that he's crossed paths or has seen this name before.
Yeah, sure.
So that's what catches his attention. It's like, Michael Hayden, that sounds familiar, and he does his research a little bit, figuring out where he lives and a bit more about this chap. And then it's mostly just out of curiosity that he ends up going, and he goes in a cream suit with kind of this hunter green brocade vest underneath, and wears a pin of a hunting dog on his lapel. He also has this cane that's gold, with a some sort of garnet on top, and of course it's real. He just seems extra enough to do that. And yeah, he shows up, and just mostly out of curiosity, but of course dressed for the best.
Yeah. When he gets there, he's treated like royalty. There are servants and wait staff I say servants, but they're just wait staff and stuff like that. But yeah, they all usher him in and welcome, sir. Like, so glad you could come this evening, and please make yourself at home. And they offer him a drink and hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that. So it's just very chill. It's pretty standard. Doesn't seem like anything is out of the ordinary. The place is a little bit filled when Jeremy gets there, but a couple of other people kind of trail in as the time goes on. Lots of dancing, and it's very nice, and a lovely live band, and all this good stuff. Michael doesn't approach Jeremy for a first little while. He's working the room, he's shaking hands, smiling at people.
That's perfectly fine with Jeremy. Jeremy is chattering it up. He's definitely like a social sort of guy. Definitely.
I would say there's also people here that he knows.
Oh yeah.
Within those circles.
Just kind of easing his way into these social circles with wine in hand, and boasting of his stories of, oh yes, I was one of the main investors in Hollywood. Charlie Chaplin, that chap. I actually helped talent seek him. Do you know the planes? Yes, I also helped fund the project that made the dog fighting planes in World War I.
This guy is such a look at me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just imagining like a male, older time frame version of Tahani from the Good Place.
Oh,
absolutely.
Fucking-lutely. But a little bit more American. Very American.
So yeah, now Jeremy is now Tahani. I love that. That's a perfect mental image for me.
And he's like, oh, you like my suit? It actually came. Its lining is silk, actually from India. I traveled there and hunted elephants. As you can see, my cufflinks actually come from the ivory from their tusks.
Great, I hate him already. Yeah, so Jeremy kind of does his thing, moves around the room. Michael is flitting in and out of these circles as well, kind of, like I said, introducing himself, chatting with old pals, how's the wife, how's the kids, don't forget to try this kind of order or whatever's there, you're really gonna love it. And then eventually he does make his way around to Jeremy. And he's not super abrasive about it. Like, he just kind of slips into the circle where Jeremy is talking to people, shakes a couple hands, and then he somehow ends up right next to Jeremy. Puts a hand down on his shoulder and says, Mr. McGillicuddy, sir, very nice to meet you. I'm glad that you could come. It's nice to finally meet you properly.
Yeah, what I imagine is he's talking about his time in Malaysia hunting tigers, and
of course he is. Why wouldn't he?
Like,
be?
Of course, these scars on my arm, and there's like actual gigantic scars. It's like, yes, that was when the tiger got me, and with that opportunity, I shot it in the head, and
oh my god.
and then, but he pauses mid-story as Michael starts talking to him, and he's like, mm-hmm. Oh yes, you are the host that I've been hearing about.
Michael gives him this amazing, dazzling smile, perfect straight white teeth. He's quite a young man. I would say just early 30s. He looks very well put together. His hair isn't slicked back, but it's kind of pushed back out of his face. Beautiful chestnut brown hair. and just the most striking green eyes. He just looks like somebody that you can trust. Like you would see him in a room and be like, okay, I think that guy's pretty safe to hand my drink to. But yeah, he just fixes this dazzling smile on Jeremy and says, I hope you're enjoying yourself so far.
Oh, absolutely. There was a minor inconvenience with one of the staff. Gave me spilled some drink on my shoe. It's no big deal.
My goodness, I am so very sorry for your experience. Would you like me to fetch someone to perhaps clean your shoes for you while you're here?
Oh, no need.
Are you quite certain?
I am just fine.
All right. Well, the offer is there if you find that, you can't get it out of your mind, and if you need someone to clean your shoes for you, absolutely give me a call, and I'll be right over. However, I was hoping that perhaps I could speak to you for just a moment. I hate to bring you away from your circle here, but perhaps we could just chat.
Oh, certainly. Just a moment, chaps. I'll be back.
So Michael doesn't take his hand from Jeremy's shoulder and just kind of guides him partway out of the room where there are less people, into a quiet little corner there.
I imagine as they are walking away, he's definitely a chatterbox. He's just talking like, now, Michael, I actually had to do some research upon receiving your letter, and it seems like we were on a building project together. Do you know the Chrysler building? You were also working on that project. I really had to dig for it, though.
You know what? I have my fingers in certain projects. You know how it is. I love to network. I love to meet new people. Anytime I can lend my expertise, I suppose you could say, I'm definitely willing to do so. And that is actually rather why I've invited you here tonight. I do have a proposal for you, you see. I was wondering if you were quite interested.
Well, absolutely. Of course, I would like details upon this, but
oh, certainly.
This is I mean, that's what I do. I'm an investor. Any new ideas, intriguing ideas, up and coming talent, those are all things that strike my fancy.
Michael lets out this laugh, and it's honey. This guy knows how to kind of sweeten everybody up. Just like a poster boy almost. Good looks, dazzling smile, a beautiful laugh. There's no way you could say no to this guy. But he kind of this laughter bubbles out of him, and he says, "No, of course. I wouldn't dream of asking you here just to ask for your money without telling you what the project is. And I do believe that you will be quite entertained and intrigued by this idea. It was an idea
I'm
that came
intrigued
to me.
already.
I knew you would be. It was an idea that came to me after quite some thought. And it is not something that I ask for funding for lightly, you see, as it is a very difficult project. And I foresee it taking quite the few years to complete. But upon its completion, I can assure you that this will be one of those magnificent things that you've ever seen. And I can't wait to see it with my own eyes. I'm so excited just thinking about it, and I know that as soon as I tell you what it is, you will be excited too. Would you like to join me in my study, where we can go over the plans for this idea, and you can tell me if you'd like to invest?
Please.
Absolutely, follow me. And he brings him to his study. When they get in there, Michael locks the door behind them, kind of wraps his knuckle on the door and chuckles a little bit, gives Jeremy a knowing look and says, "We don't want anyone sneaking in here during our business dealings now, would we?" And he comes around the desk to sit in his chair and obviously offers a chair to Jeremy as well. And on the table are all of these handwritten diagrams and notes and things, pictures of the rudimentary bathyspheres, scribbled designs in the margins for like the kind of Art Deco design look of the city, but all in very basic forms, clearly just ideas, nothing that has been solidly drawn up yet. But he turns a couple of pages towards Jeremy, who is sitting there, and starts speaking, and he's pointing to different diagrams as he goes. But mostly what it boils down to is, now I understand that as I speak, you might think me crazy at first. But I assure you that I have done the math multiple times over and over again. I think this could work. It's just going to take time and money. But you see, I have this vision, this idea of a city far from the prying eyes, the government that wants to take so much of what we have, from religion, from God's eyes. We don't need any of that here. This city will be precious to us, to the chosen people who live there. Free from all of those politics, from all of the things that are a detriment to our daily lives. Free from the prying eyes of the people, even. For the city will be underwater. What say you? How are you feeling about that?
I imagine as he's talking, he's looking through these diagrams, and it Jeremy puts on quite a show of being boisterous and loud and things like that, but he settles down, and he's like, well, my God, were you the one that did these blueprints?
Michael chuckles a little bit, and kind of taps the papers. He says, well, of course, they're all very rudimentary. They're just concepts now. But yes, they are mine. I've not gotten any input so far from anyone else. These are just, I suppose you could call them my brain children. I'm very protective of them, you see. It's an idea and a concept that I've not shown to many people. So you can understand, I suppose, the secretiveness of the project. It's something quite ambitious. So yes, these papers have not passed through many hands yet.
I would say that, rudimentary as they may be, I would say that you are the Da Vinci of our time.
Oh, please, sir, you flatter me.
Now you must understand, I've worked with the best of the best in my days, the up-and-coming designers. I was there, at the Paris World Fair, seeing the visions of the future. None of it compares to what you are putting forward here.
I do understand that it's quite a radical idea, honestly, to put an entire city under the water. It will take some time and quite a bit of ambition, but I believe that it's something that we would be able to do. And I believe that with your help, we can get it done quickly and beautifully and start ushering in a new era. People who live so freely beneath the ocean, even freer within the confines of the ocean than they'd ever feel walking topside on this soil that has become so infested with just the scum of the earth, if you ask me. Pardon my language, pardon my saying so, but I just feel like there's so much more that we can attain by, ironically enough, confining ourselves to a location such as this. But there are endless possibilities with how much we can do there. And I think for me, that is truly the draw of this idea.
Hmm. Well, my friend, I have to say I absolutely agree with you. Um, while they are very wonderful people out there, and the best of the best, there is many who I think squander their potential. Uh, I'm in.
Michael kind of slaps his hand on the table a little bit, not too hard, just as like a hey yeah, and he beams that smile at Jeremy again. Just a ray of sunshine. Like there's no way that there could be anything wrong with this man. He's just too good. He projects the energy that's just, so charismatic, and there's a magnetism about him. But he slaps his hand down on the desk there, and he points at Jeremy and he says, "You, sir, are not going to regret your decision, and I can assure you that much." And he stands up and extends his hand out to Jeremy.
Jeremy, of course, takes it. He's got some of those like big rings on his fingers,
Yep.
and takes his hand. It's like, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
I don't think you truly realize how true that statement is. It's going to be a pleasure to work with you. And he gives his hand a firm shake. And I think that's pretty good for the first snapshot. That's
Yes.
I very much enjoyed that.
That was awesome.
Also, I'm glad that you liked Michael's voice.
Oh my God, you really were giving me chills. Like, oh, like I could totally see this as a villainous monologue. Like, whoo.
Yeah.
But Jeremy isn't so sunshine and roses himself. So.
Yes. So I think they'll make an interesting duo. All right, Raven and Riley, how you guys doing?
Good. Good. That was very enjoyable to listen to and see that play out.
I feel like Niklaus would be good friends with Michael in another life, perhaps.
Listening to the description, I'm like, yeah, Niklaus would respect the hell out of this guy.
I'm almost sad that Michael isn't a huge part of our current campaign. Because he's, even just that little bit, he's very fun, and I can picture him very clearly in my mind. I don't know, maybe we'll see him in bits and pieces later, but physically or as a character, I don't know. He might actually physically be in bits and pieces. Who knows? But Raven, Riley, would you guys like to do like a Niklaus and Sid thing? Would you like to continue linearly and do just like you guys alone before you've met up, or what are you feeling? Totally up to you.
I think Riley had some ideas. I have been a total blank on anything Niklaus related today, and is driving me crazy. I've got total writer's block today with this character.
That's all right.
But I think Riley had some ideas that involve Niklaus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess I'm down for whatever with Sid. Like, I definitely do have something specifically like towards the beginning of Niklaus's and Sid's relationship, like one instance that I kind of told Raven a little bit about idea-wise earlier today. But yeah.
All right, how about we do this then? We'll do a little bit of maybe young Sid, kind of play off what you gave me earlier.
Okay.
Then we can probably do like some Niklaus just before you guys met up. Raven, if you want to do some interactions with maybe Julian.
Sure.
Yeah, because we can set it up so that it's as Julian is being invited down into the city. I know we talked a little bit about that interaction, so we can probably flesh that out a little bit, and then we can do like Niklaus and Sid, whatever you guys discussed with each other, then you can go ahead and do that, and I'll step back and you guys can have the spotlight. Sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So Riley, what I'm going to get you to do is, based off the information that you've given me, I know that you have a certain threshold that you'd kind of like to keep Sid within. And I don't want to blast open your character development or anything that, you don't want to touch on right now. So what I'm going to get you to do is I'm going to get you to explain a little bit about Sid's upbringing in whatever terms that you want to keep it to, and I will play around within those confines. Does that sound okay? Or does that make it more confusing for you? I don't know. Whatever you like to, because I don't want to like take away your thunder if you'd like to save anything for later.
Yeah. I think I'll leave that up to GM discretion. Like whatever you think would be best for the story or setting as a whole. We can just maybe briefly go over just like one of the snapshot ideas I sent to you. So
yeah. So are you talking about like the snapshots as in the separate paragraphs that you sent to me?
Yeah, like where the lines are.
Okay, yeah.
Basically,
sure.
Vanessa a novel today. It's fine.
It was fine. I enjoyed reading it all. Let me just look at it so I can see. Because I mean, yeah, we could probably. I don't know if you want to do some with Lillian. It's very interesting. You guys have created these characters and I'm like, what do I want to know more of? Where do I want to start? And if I could just sink my fingers into Sid's background and just rip it apart and inspect all of it, I would. But like I said, I want this to be a slow burn for your character. I love Sid and I love the way you've portrayed her so far. So I don't want to gorge myself on too much because I think that would be a little greedy.
I feel like Klaus would approve of the way you're describing wanting to inspect Sid's backstory.
I hate that.
Yeah, you know what? I take it back. Please leave me alone.
Hear that, Niklaus? Fuck off.
Oh, I'm very vocal when I tell Niklaus to fuck off. It's fine. All right.
He's creepy.
Let's ask this then, Riley. Do you want to do like the part with do you want Sid included in the snapshot first? I guess is the best way to ask that.
Sid does not have to be included in the snapshot.
I think it would be really, really fun to do that then. That little paragraph that you sent.
Okay. Who
Yeah?
do you want to be?
That's a good question.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, I know you were
Me
right.
too. Me too. Oh my goodness, we just got a wild raid. It's gigantic.
Hey,
A wild raid has appeared.
Hello.
Saito, thanks so much for that raid. Welcome, raiders. How was your stream?
Hi.
I hope you had a fun time with whatever you were streaming. And then yeah, welcome in. We're doing like a sort of a second session 0. We've got a cast member out today, so we're doing a little bit of review of characters' backstories and acting out some little, as Vanessa put it, snapshots of their history. So a little bit of a different stream today, but I hope you enjoy hanging out with us.
Yeah, we're just discussing right now what snapshots we want to do in what order. Because Raven said, it's very chill today. We're just doing some fleshing out. But Riley, I'll let you take Lillian on this one. I think that'll be helpful both in me seeing how you portray her, and then maybe I can take her from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I feel like all of us are looking at Riley going, all right, then keep your secrets.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay, so let me set the scene then. Actually, Riley, why don't you give? There's a man standing. Just outside a building. I want you to describe the physical appearance of this man for me.
Oh, okay.
Thank
He
you.
looks to be like in his mid to late 20s. He has more workers' clothes on. However, they're not dirty like they should be. They should be more dirty for somebody who works a manual labor job. So if you were to look closely at his hands, you'd be able to tell that they were soft. He hasn't really done a lot of manual labor. He's wearing this hat, and he's tall and muscular, and he has short dark hair, fair skin, and a little bit of scruff growing, and he's currently reclined against the side of this building, smoking a cigarette.
Perfect. All right. So if you guys can picture this man, take it away, Riley. This man is lounging against the side of this building.
So Lillian, who's a smaller, more petite woman, she has this shawl on, this woven shawl. She has nice clothes on, but you can tell that she doesn't really have a lot of money, can't really afford super nice things. And she's a little bit nervous. She's young and she's beautiful. She has just the right curves for the time, and just a very, very pretty girl, but she seems very nervous today. And so she approaches the man reclining and lounging against the building.
So as she gets closer, the man first looks her up and down, and it's kind of, there's something off about it. Like, it's not exactly predatory, but it's a little bit too uncomfortable for public, I would say. But it's almost like he catches himself doing that, and then his eyes dart around to see if there's anybody else approaching or in the vicinity, before he takes the cigarette out of his mouth and taps the ash from the end of it. He kind of straightens up from the building, and squares his shoulders, and tries to paint himself as like a respectable man who's just, what can I help you with today, ma'am? Kind of demeanor, right? He's keeping a safe distance. He's being respectful, and he just lets her approach.
So she comes up to him, she smiles at him, but it's not like a normal smile that she would normally give this man. Normally she's a lot more bubbly and flirtatious and just teasing, but today she's very nervous, and she gives him a slight smile and it's like, thank you for meeting me.
I don't understand why you've insisted that we have to do this now, but make it quick. What is it?
I'm pregnant.
He kind of coughs a little bit, as if to either hide the fact that he's just choked on air, or to cover up his surprise. And he looks around again, and kind of like his eyebrows furrow a little bit, and he looks at her and he's like, "Are you quite sure?"
She just nods.
He takes another drag from the cigarette, and then drops it on the ground and kind of puts it out with his boot, and kind of puts his hands casually back into his pockets, and he's like, "Well, I'm sorry to be so blunt with you, but what makes you think that it's mine?"
She gets a little bit red in the face, but she just she quietly is like, "Sid, there's only been you." And the way she says it, it's almost like a slight confession of love. Her hands are shaking, and there's just a quick glimmer of hope that replaces the fear in her eyes just for a split second.
The man looks at her and his hands kind of move in his pockets as if he's clenching up his fingers and then letting them relax again. And he gives her a smile at first, and it quickly turns to something without any happiness or politeness in it. And it slowly kind of leeches from his face. And he just kind of like looks around again, and he's like, well, I mean, what do you expect from me?
My parents, they've kicked me out. They say I won't be welcomed back till I find a father for the child and a husband for myself. I was hoping you...
You were hoping what? Jesus Christ, Lou. What the fuck do you want me to do? I'm engaged, for Christ's sake.
But I thought...
Besides, no, I mean, look at you. There's absolutely no way that someone like me could be someone like with someone like you. I could lose everything that I have. I'm not willing to let go of that.
So Lillian just slumps and just looks down at her delicate brown hands, and her tears are just dripping onto them. She just doesn't have it. She can't bring herself to look back at Sid.
He takes his hands out of his pockets and like pulls them, through whatever short hair he has, almost like a very frustrated kind of, he lets out a breath and it's all in a huff. And he's like, listen, I mean, if this were any other circumstances, if anything was different, I mean, maybe it would have been different for us too, but it's not, and it isn't, and it can't be. And I mean, there's nothing that I can really do for you. I don't want you to be sent to one of those places. I mean, I have enough love. And then he stops himself for a moment and clears his throat and straightens up again. And he says, I care for you enough that I don't want you to be sent away like that. Now I can give you some money. I can help you pay for the child. You can move into a small apartment, something, but that's all I can offer you. There's nothing else for me to give to you. And then once you have yourself situated and you can take care of yourself, that's it. I can't speak to you anymore. I can't let anybody know that this child is mine. Absolutely not.
Lillian just lets out a small, like, shaky sigh and just nods.
The man kind of looks around again, steps back away from Lillian, and he sighs again as well, and does that motion where he kind of pulls his hand back over his head again, and he lets out a soft breath. He says, "For Christ's sake, Lil, I wish things were different, but you know what? That's the way it is sometimes. There's nothing else that I can do for you, and I think it's time for you to go."
So Lillian just stands there for a second. Her hands are shaking just a little bit, shocked and defeated. And then she realizes what he just said and just turns and walks away in the direction that she came from.
As she gets a couple of steps away, he does call out to her, It's more of like a, I guess like a yelled whisper. It's like a stage whisper, where he's trying to get her attention, but he doesn't want anybody else to really have their attention drawn by it. He's like, Lillian.
So she'll turn back and look at him.
He's just like, I'll either be by myself or I'll have someone bring you what you need. Just, you know, I'll have something for you. Just that's it. That's all I can offer you.
She chokes back, like the tears that are coming, the more tears and the bawling, and she just turns and walks away faster. And just is gone.
He doesn't call after her again. After that, he just kind of looks around once more. Just wants to be very, very certain that no one has witnessed this interaction. And then he lets out a breath and leans back against the building and takes out his cigarettes and lights up another one and pops it between his lips. And that's the end of that snapshot. We'll look into, I guess, the origins of Sydney. Ta-da! But yeah.
That's so sad.
I don't like this guy.
I don't either.
He's a jerk. But yeah, a little bit of sadness for Lillian there, but you know, I can't exactly assure anybody that there are happier times ahead for her. But I guess we'll have to stick around and find out for that. So yeah, let's pop over to you, Raven.
Alright, as I say, given what I know of Sid, I'm gonna go with it's gonna get worse.
Perhaps. Oh, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, let's hop over to I was gonna say Nikolai again. Gosh darn. Niklaus. There are too many N names in this, starting with Nick. Niklaus, Nikolai, Nikolaus. I love it. But yeah, so I know you're experiencing a little bit of a brain fart. But that's okay. We'll just take it one step at a time. We'll just have some fun with it. So just as a recap, let's talk a little bit about Julian and about Niklaus as a whole. Because I know we kind of touched a little bit on their relationship and what they are to each other. I don't know if we discussed that at our session 0 or not, maybe a little bit, but
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and explain from Niklaus's point of view who Julian is, what their relationship is, and how Niklaus kind of feels about him.
So, Niklaus has pretty much a habit of knowing everything about everyone, because it's kind of how he was taught to get ahead in the world. Growing up in a wealthy business oriented family. So he keeps tabs on everybody that's from an important family, and kind of what they're doing, what their children are doing, etc., etc. And so I think Niklaus probably knows Julian from a social setting, but not so much as a friend, but a how can I get what I want from you, kind of a thing.
Pop him in his back pocket until the time comes up that he might need him.
Yeah, more or less. And I feel like if there is anything questionable that Julian's done, Niklaus probably knows about it.
I feel like Niklaus is the type to like make allusions to that sort of thing in front of people to give them that little bit of anxiety, like, oh shit, he knows.
Oh, absolutely.
Threaten blackmail. But
Yeah.
not actually threaten blackmail, you know?
Yeah.
Like the I know what you did, and it'd be a shame if other people knew what you did too.
Oh,
Yeah.
wouldn't that just be awful?
That would just break your poor parents' hearts.
Yeah. So Julian is more so of like a colleague. He's a scientist, very, very talented man. I would say his faults lie in research that is not morally, we'll say morally frowned upon, I suppose. Something that in Exodus, no problem, but topside, yeah, maybe you should not. You know, so I feel like Niklaus probably has something like that on Julian. And Julian obviously does not want that to be found out. And
Jillian, it'd be a shame if someone found out what actually happened to that orphanage.
yeah, pretty much, you know? But knowing that, you know, Niklaus hasn't actually come out and full on like, hey, you know, this is the information that I have on you and this is what I'm going to do unless you don't listen to what the fuck I say. I feel like Niklaus is a lot more tactful than that.
Yeah,
but the
nothing,
point, yeah.
nothing that forward. That's to quote everyone, how uncivilized.
Lovely. Yeah, so I have the feeling that Julian knows what's happening. He's clearly aware that, you know, Niklaus knows things that could put him in a very dangerous position. And there's kind of this unspoken agreement between them that anything Julian knows, Niklaus always also knows. Especially anything of very high value or worth, or things that could put Niklaus further ahead in the long game. And so it's definitely a situation like that when Julian is approached to actually be one of the scientists on team in Exodus. So Michael finds him, and you know, he recognizes that Julian has, you know, awards, and he's done things for his scientific research that have gotten notable results, and perhaps people don't know how he got to those results, and he was able to cover them up in reports and, you know, explain, oh, this is how I got this result, when in fact it was not actually how he got the result. So he falsified certain information. But regardless, he is known for whatever advancements in his field that resulted from those experiments. So Michael would have said, okay, you know, here's a guy who clearly knows what he's doing. Let's see what we can do to get him to Exodus and see if he'd be willing to continue his research there. So it's sometime after this when Julian goes to see Niklaus. I think that's the snapshot that we'll work through here.
Okay.
So Julian doesn't like write up a paper report every time something happens. It's not one of those where like as soon as he knows something he goes to Niklaus. It's more so along the lines of, here are the jot notes. We can sit down and chat about anything that kind of piques your interest a little bit. But,
no,
you know.
I'm sorry. It's going to have to be in 12-point font, double-spaced, in the...
Times New Roman.
Yes, exactly.
Sources stated at the end. I would like a full and complete bibliography. That sounds like something Niklaus would absolutely ask for, and I hate it. But yeah, so on this particular occasion, Julian comes to, does Niklaus have like an office? Does he work from home?
Yeah.
Like what?
So I kind of imagine Niklaus having it's like the family estate kind of thing, where he stays a lot of the time. But he would absolutely have like a downtown office, and that sort of thing where he goes to work when he needs to meet with people.
Okay. So would Julian's situation warrant going straight to his home, or do you think they would set up meetings through the office?
I imagine Niklaus doesn't let anyone come to the house very often, and unless he's the one doing the summoning. So if like Julian sent a message that says like, "Hey, I need to talk to you" or something like that, then Niklaus would just meet him at the office.
Okay, sounds good. So they have set up this appointment then, and Julian is to meet him at 4:30 on a Wednesday evening, 4:30 sharp, not a moment later, or else there will be hell to pay. I assume is how that message went. But yeah, so Julian, go ahead.
It'd probably be more something like, "I'll meet you at 4:30 sharp. I wouldn't recommend showing up late."
There you go. A little bit scarier. Okay, so Julian actually arrives and knocks on the door at 4:29 p.m. on a Wednesday evening.
Okay.
There's just 3 quick raps at the door.
I think Niklaus is behind his desk, leaning back in this, fancy, brass-studded, cushy leather chair. Probably a legal pad on the desk, a fancy pen in his hand, and I think he'll just lean back after waiting a good solid 10-15 seconds to make Julian a little bit nervous, and then he'll just say, "Do come in."
Julian opens the door, comes on in, closes the door behind him, takes a seat at one of the chairs in front of Niklaus's desk. If he's nervous, it's not outwardly visible, except for maybe like his eyes. I feel like his expression would be a little tight. But other than that, he seems to try and school his body language into something a little more laid back. He clearly doesn't want Niklaus to see that being here affects him as much as it does. But
Okay.
he offers a smile and says, "Well, how are you doing today?"
"Oh, I'm quite well. I'm just taking care of some paperwork. Would you care for a refreshment? I've got a new bottle of aged whiskey. I could pour us a couple of glasses."
Julian chuckles nervously and kind of motions, and he's like, "Sure, why not? Sounds lovely."
So Niklaus just sort of takes his time. He stands up, slowly moves around the desk, walking behind Julian over to the cabinet where the glasses and the alcohol is stored. And just very slowly and methodically begins preparing these 2 glasses of it's probably like a single barrel, 20-year-old type of whiskey, maybe Scotch or something like that. And as he's pouring, just sort of speaks to Julian from behind him. Says, "So, what was so important that you needed to have such a sudden meeting?"
That gets another little bit of a chuckle out of Julian, and he doesn't turn around to look at Niklaus, because he figures, you know what, I don't think he's gonna smack me over the back of the head with the bottle of whiskey just because I have information. So I feel like he wouldn't kill me before I have the chance to say anything. So he just kind of chuckles and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I do apologize for pulling you out to your office at this time on a Wednesday. I'm sure you have much more important things to do. But that being said, I might have some information that would make the trip worth it. And I wouldn't drag you out here if it wasn't, well, if I didn't think it was interesting. And while Nicholas is still behind him, his hands kind of tighten and let go of the arms of the chair.
Okay.
And he kind of rubs his palms on the arms a little bit. But he waits for Nicholas to come back with the drinks before he continues.
And Nicholas is a little bit quiet for a moment as he finishes pouring these 2 glasses. Again, taking his dear sweet time. And instead of going around the desk, he just sort of leans over the back of Julian's chair, holding the glass down towards him, reaching over his shoulder. And so that way his mouth is sort of closer to Julian's ear. And he just quietly says, "Nonsense. What's a sudden appointment between friends? It's not like we would want to keep secrets from one another after all." And then he'll slowly walk back behind the desk with his own glass.
I hate it. Which is exactly what Julian is thinking in his head. Julian reaches up and kind of ruffles his own hair, his blonde hair. And smiles at Niklaus, and it's kind of like this goofy grin. It's clearly too forced. But he's really trying to play for nonchalance here. And just hey, yeah, 2 friends sitting in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gay, but he he's trying to make it look like, just 2 friends. I agree. What's a meeting between 2 friends? So he kind of raises the glass a little bit to Niklaus, just as a small cheers before he takes a swig, and puts the glass down on the desk in front of him. And he tries to lean back in his chair and act like everything's good. And he's like, "Well, I had an offer recently." And
before he goes into that, just real quick, one thing that Niklaus will do at the same time.
Yeah.
Niklaus will bring the glass up to take a sip from it, wait for Julian to drink first, and then change his mind and just set the glass down. As if wanting to pay more attention to what Julian's trying to say.
Naturally. So yeah, Julian is trying to pretend like everything is hunky-dory, it's peachy, everybody is love and rainbows. And then he says, "Yeah, so I got an offer recently, and I was told not to speak of it, but I figured it might be something of interest to you. And, seeing as we're friends, of course, I thought maybe you would like to hear about it. Have you ever heard of a gentleman named Michael Hayden?"
Yes, heard something about a few projects of his. Seems a quite capable gentleman. Good head on his shoulders. Matter of fact, if we weren't rivals, we might be, dare I say, friends.
Oh, knock it off, Niklaus. You're his number 1 fan. You've got his signature framed on your wall or something.
Even if that's true, he's not gonna let Julian know that.
Absolutely not. Julian's eyebrows kind of raise a little bit before he schools his expression back into something jokey. But he's like, "Oh, really? That's kind of interesting."
Niklaus will
seems like a high endorsement from yourself.
Niklaus will pick his glass up and get the glass just barely to his lips, and then start talking and set it down, and go, "Well, I suppose that is high praise coming from me, but he is quite competent. He's done well for himself and employs a lot of the measures that I myself use in my business.
Interesting. Yes, he seemed like a lovely guy. When I met with him, actually.
Well, if he's hiring you for something and you two were amenable to one another upon meeting, it sounds like you might have a good friendship with this person as well.
I mean, not necessarily a friendship. However, he is in the middle of a project right now, and well, he wanted me to join his project because of my scientific advancements, I guess we could say. He seemed very adamant that I had something that he was looking for, and that he wanted me to be a part of his project. But the thing was that he didn't want me to tell anybody about the project, and so, I mean, naturally, I came here, of course.
Oh, naturally, of course. I mean, you wouldn't tell just anyone, but then again, I'm not just anybody.
Precisely. Julian sighs, and it's like a really heavy sigh, like someone who knows that they're going to be going to the guillotine, so they might as well just fucking get it over with, you know? So he puts his hands down on the arms of the chair, and he kind of leans forward towards Niklaus, and he says, well, you see, Michael Hayden is in the middle of building an underwater city, I guess is the way he described it to me. But he's trying to recruit people to go down into this city, and the way he explained it was he wanted a place for scientific and artistic advancements to happen naturally without moral restrictions, I guess was the way he put it. I don't quite know what that entails. However, I did not ask. But he offered me a spot in this city and told me that it was exclusive and that not just anyone has an invite, and that he would be thrilled to have me and looked forward to seeing me there.
I see. So it sounds like he's going for scientific development without the restrictions of ethics.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. And he leans back again and kind of meekly takes the glass and takes another swig and puts it back down.
Niklaus just sort of stays quiet in thought for a moment, and then finally takes the glass and takes a sip of whiskey, and says, "Yes, that should be right up your alley, I would presume." Well, it sounds like it would behoove you to become friends with this Michael fellow, because after all, friends can be quite useful.
I think Julian at this point is just happy that Niklaus isn't going to murder him.
And
he
Niklaus
seems a
is
little...
just loving how scared he's making Julian.
Yes. He seems to like melt into his chair a little bit. Just kind of relieved that this is the direction the conversation is going. Like clearly he wants Julian to become closer to Michael to get the dirty deets on whatever's happening.
Yeah.
So that's what he can live with. He can, just as long as he's living. So he smiles again. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Niklaus just raises his glass again and takes a small sip, looking over at Julian and goes, would you like another? You seem quite stressed. Are you feeling all right?
No, I'm quite all right. Thank you for offering. I do believe I should be on my way, but I will definitely keep you updated on the situation, as of course. What's that between two friends, right?
Oh yes, precisely. And do take care of yourself. After all, if you don't, then you know, if you're not careful to get the proper rest and keep yourself composed, then others might take notice. And then your friendship would be less useful.
All that gets from Julian is like this nervous chuckle. He pushes his chair back and stands up very promptly. Nods to the glass and thank you for the refreshments, and turns his back and goes towards the door. He closes his eyes, and it seems like the tension just comes right out of his shoulders. Like he just sags a little bit on his way to the door. Because you know what? Fortunately for him, he made it out of this one. So he's good. He leaves and gives his word to Niklaus that anything he finds will be reported. And I would also probably figure that in the future, before Julian actually goes to Exodus, whatever information that Michael gives him on like his work and what he's expected to do once he gets there, all of that gets passed to Niklaus as well. So Niklaus does have an understanding based on Julian's understanding of what he will be doing in the city. Now, obviously, Michael doesn't tell him like the specifics, like, you know, I would say that at this point, there is no cane yet that hasn't been developed. So there's nothing particularly specific that Michael would give to him, but anything he does know about the job, Julian passes it along.
Perfect. I think as soon as Julian closes the door to the office, Niklaus just leans back in the big leather chair and does the classic finger pyramid of contemplation.
Perfectly fitting, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, and that is that snapshot. I think now would probably be good for a little break if you guys do want to continue and do a couple more snapshots. If not, we can wrap it up here. Totally up to yourselves. What would you like to do? Do you want to do more backstory? Do we want to delve a little bit more into more recent things, or what would you like to do?
There's one that I want, and that's the whatever conversation Pepper and Anastasia has.
Okay.
Maybe when Pepper's grandfather's dying, when
Yeah. Okay,
Jeremy's
we can
dying.
do that one.
Do that one. That's
Okay. And then we can probably do the one with Sid and Niklaus then, if you'd like to do that. So in that case, we will probably take a break now, run and get some water and stuff like that, and then come back and do a couple more snapshots. How's that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Excellent.
And depending on how everybody's feeling, we might do some Among Us or Phasmophobia after this. So
Yeah.
and stream it or just for funsies?
Yeah, I'll probably stream it. Yeah.
Aye.
So yeah, we're gonna take a break. We'll be back in 10 minutes. We'll do the second half of this, and then probably some games. So if you're in the mood to play some Among Us, or potentially some Phasmophobia, depending on how many people we have, let me know in Discord, and maybe we can get you into a game with us. If you don't know what the Discord is, it's right there in chat now. We'll be right back in about 10 minutes. And we're back.
Alrighty, so before our break, we had just finished up with one of our snapshots. And then now we have a couple of more that we're going to do before our time is up. Rowan, I know that you want to do some stuff with Anastasia. However, my whole mouth is like, please stop talking. I need a break. So I think what I'll do is I will let Raven and Riley take the spot on this one. You guys can do your snapshot, and then we will pull it up with Anastasia and Pepper after that. Is that okay?
I am totally down with that.
Cool. All right. So I know that you guys have discussed a little bit of it already. So the floor is yours. Set your scene. Let's see what you got.
I will let Riley set the scene.
Okay, so just a question before we get into it. So how would Niklaus go about trying to get, like, helping hands?
I feel like Niklaus would basically be the reason Niklaus wants an apprentice and or ward is for credibility, primarily. It's hard for people to think that you're up to something nefarious or evil if you're rescuing orphan children off the streets. So that's kind of his motivation. So I imagine it probably would literally be looking for some poor child on the streets and going like, oh, this looks like a good rescue story that might buy me some PR points.
Perfect. So yeah, so Sid is just rotating between like trying to beg people, but also kind of like trying to pickpocket people, and also trying to get people to hire her for jobs. Sid does not look like a young lady. She looks like just like a young boy, kind of dressed like a newsie. Very dirty. That doesn't dance, but
okay. So I'm kind of imagining the two of them meeting, perhaps downtown, somewhere like that, where Niklaus perhaps has been concerned about people seeing him as too standoffish and cold, and perhaps he's not getting invited to certain social events because of that, and trying to figure out ways to solve this problem when he happens upon Sid. Now, is Sid asking Niklaus to hire her? Is she trying to steal from Niklaus? Or is she begging her? What would she be doing when Niklaus happens upon Sid?
Sid knows that like the richer people tend to be more like against or like professing to be against child labor and things like that. So she isn't going to ask Niklaus for a job. She would try pickpocketing him.
Okay. Perhaps Niklaus would catch on to this. Either before Sid's able to take anything, or perhaps even after Sid's been able to take something, but just before Sid can get away, maybe Niklaus like grabs her by the collar or something like that.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay. So with that scene set, we can start from Niklaus grabbing Sid by the collar, if you like.
Yeah, sounds good.
So yeah, he'll do that and go, how would Niklaus react to that? Probably something along the lines of like, I don't think that's your smartest move today, child.
Sid just looks up at Niklaus and just like rolls her eyes a little bit. Not at Niklaus, just at like the damn unsuccessful, and just like hands out like this wallet to Niklaus.
Okay. Niklas will take the wallet back, with the hand that's not holding onto Sid's collar. And he'll just sort of stand there for a second, flips the wallet open with one hand and make sure all the money's still there. And he'll let go and pull out a rather large bill, like a 50 or something like that. And say, well, the average person, you probably would have gotten away with it, which means you're pretty good with your hands, getting to places that you shouldn't be unnoticed and taking things. I wonder if you might want to earn this money here that I have in my hand.
I'm listening.
Well, you see, I am a man of science, and as such, I am in need of certain materials to conduct my experiments. Some of those are a bit hard to come by. So what I would need you to find for me is a cadaver. That means body, by the way, a dead body.
This Sid's eyes widen a little bit. But then she just nods, and tries to gain back whatever ground she lost by giving that away with her eyes widening.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, how much?
He just
Just
holds
the
up
50?
the 50. It's like, well, you're being a bit presumptuous, but I like ambition in measured doses. I tell you what, you find me a suitable cadaver, bring it to this address, and he pulls out a card and hands it to you. And if I'm reasonably satisfied with the time it takes you to find it and the condition of it, then I'll have more work for you. And if you prove yourself useful, perhaps we could make this a extended arrangement. Now, tell me, do you have parents? I'm presuming not by the state of you and where you're at, what you're doing, but do you have parents?
No.
And he kind of squints his eyes a little bit, trying to tell if Sid's lying or not, but seems to be pretty satisfied with the answer. He says, very well. Produce a cadaver, whatever means you feel are necessary to achieve this, so long as nobody comes looking for it afterwards. And bring that to me by the same time tomorrow. And I presume you do not have a very good place to stay.
Sid doesn't answer that and just like scurries off.
Alright. Niklas just sort of shrugs and goes, alright, we'll discuss that later, I presume. And keeps walking.
So later that night, there would be a knock on Niklaus's door at the address that he gave Sid.
Okay. There's your stereotypical butler type of character there. He opens the door and sort of turns his nose up a little bit at you. And goes, yes?
I'm looking for this person. And Sid just holds out the card.
This person sort of grabs it by the very tiny corner of it, holding it like it's a dead rat, and looks at it and goes, yes, curious that the master would give you one of these. But who am I to question? Wait here. He closes the door. And sometime later, Niklaus would come to the door, open it, and go, "Ah, I see you've returned. That was rather fast. Do you have the cadaver I requested?"
So, Sid disappears for a slight second off to the side out of field of vision, and then comes back, dragging a very dirty sheet with something inside of it.
Well, I must say I'm impressed. And no one will come looking for this?
Nope.
That was quicker than I anticipated. Very well, here's your money. And Niklaus pulls out the 50 and hands it to Sid. And then turns to the butler and says, "Alright, see that this is put into my lab, and prepare one of the guest rooms for our new guest." He looks to Sid and says, "Assuming you would prefer to stay here and not wherever it is you go to at night, we'll see that you're properly bathed, given some clothes, and you can use one of the guest rooms as long as you remain useful."
Sid quickly grabs the $50 and just like stuffs it in her pocket, and then just I'm trying to think for a second. Just gets close, uncomfortably close, like, okay, like, are we going inside now close? But then like is like, maybe I shouldn't just walk into a wealthy person's house, not because of manners, but because that seems like I might get a lashing.
Niklaus just sort of appraises Sid's behavior and goes, "You have good instincts for survival. I believe I could teach you. But yes, you may enter now, to answer your unspoken question."
Sid kind of glances up at Niklaus out of the corner of their eye, still kind of like keeping their head down a little bit from their misstep, but then they just like hurry and scuttle inside.
Just imagining this tiny Sid going, "Whoop, whoop, 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 whoop," as she runs inside. So yeah, then I imagine Niklaus's people would take the body to the lab, and Sid would find, would be directed to the room and would find a very fancy room with a super plush bed and like a bathroom attached to the room, and all of the wait staff would definitely look at Sid like a giant dirty rat, but guide her to the bathroom and instruct her to bathe. And then whenever Sid came out of the bathroom, I imagine there would be like a set of clothes that would fit her.
May I ask what, like, clothes-wise, what type of clothes would they be? Would they be like a dress or a nightgown, or would it be more like pants set, stuff like that?
Probably like pants and a shirt. But the design would be one that's neither really all that masculine or feminine. A pretty neutral set of clothing,
Perfect.
I think, is what they would choose. They'd probably base it off of whatever it is that Sid's wearing currently, just a fancier and clean version of it.
Okay. So Sid would put that on.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
I
guys have anything else to add?
I was gonna say I would add more, but I think at that point Niklaus would ignore Sid for a while. So
Yeah, and Sid really doesn't have much to give either. Sid's just like, cool, I'm in this house.
Very good. All right. Excellent. So it's fun to see that their relationship is just like, yep, okay, you brought me a body, you can stay around for a little while.
it's very like both of them I think are like, well, you're useful to me, so I'll stick around with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, huh, you're continuing to be useful. This is really interesting.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. Awesome. So yeah, we will do one last one then. We will take a look at when Anastasia and Pepper first met. So we know that when they met up after Niklas and Sid came to Exodus, they already knew each other. It didn't seem to be a very deep connection, although Anastasia is more inclined to speak with Pepper than she is any of the others. And she seems to have more patience for Pepper. So let's talk a little bit more about that, I think.
Okay.
So kind of, Rowan, if you want to kind of explain the progress of Jeremy in Exodus
Sure.
and what happened with him.
So Jeremy, I mean, he was already like older when he was approached about helping, fund Exodus.
Mhm.
And I assume it took a while for Exodus itself to be built.
Yeah, we're looking maybe 5 to 7 years ish, maybe a little bit more, give or take.
Okay. That's still surprisingly fast considering the undertaking of the project.
Yeah.
So he he already was fairly old, like in he already was beating the curve of the average death rate, so to speak. He was in his 60s, 50s, 60s when he first had that conversation with Michael. He when the time comes to move to Exodus, he comes with his granddaughter. If asked about it, he quickly says, "Oh yes, this is the daughter of this is my granddaughter. Her parents passed away in an accident. I am her only living relative that can take care of her currently," and really kind of leave it at that. The circumstances behind his children's death and things he's rather vague on. And I don't think people would really ask a lot of questions either. That's not the kind of person where you just pester. Mm-hmm. He'll tell stories, but he doesn't get into the details of things like that, of more personal nature. Pepper is a quiet child, but there's definitely some expectation on her even early on. As Jeremy continues during his time in Exodus, he continues to fund different projects and things, and shows up at bigger inventions and things like that to suss it out if they need funding, and invest accordingly. And Pepper is often there by his side, kind of a quiet shadow. It's about the time when things are falling apart. Everyone pretty much knows who Jeremy McGillicuddy is. Jeremy has, many wealthy people in his back pocket, but also has made some enemies when he refuses to fund particular projects and things like that. So he is definitely a polarizing individual himself. And people have discovered he does tend to have a mean streak as well. He does have a temper, and people know not to get on his bad side, at least not in his face. um,
Fair enough.
yeah, there have been people who have gotten whacked, smacked or whacked from him by crossing him in person.
Mhm.
So he actually starts having memory issues. And Pepper is expected to take on more and more of his work as he starts having memory issues and starts not being all there. And at that point, his health fades fairly quickly. He probably hides it for a while, especially as this is a inopportune time as things are falling apart. But people notice that during this time where he's, needed the most, he is not there to fund anyone or to pick a side in the riots, and that probably polarizes him, people's opinion of him even more. Uh, if he shows up at all, it's really only Pepper that perhaps that shows up, and until finally there is a letter that appears at the doctor's office, um, from signed P. McGillicuddy, saying that my grandfather is very ill. He can no longer leave bed. It's worded very professionally for someone who is, I think at this point it's what?
She's
She's like
probably mid-teens.
19 when things start falling apart. So
Uh,
that was 3 years ago.
yeah, about I would say maybe 4.
So 18.
Cool.
So yeah, she's like, grandfather has hidden his condition for a long time, told me not to tell anyone about his situation, as he is a person well respected in the city, and he wanted to maintain his status and keep his position and his weakness private. If you cannot tell anyone about the situation except for staff to help, that'd be great, but I have no idea what to do.
So, I'm assuming that as Jeremy's condition worsens, Pepper hears less and less from Michael, especially if Jeremy is refusing to send funds for certain things, not picking a side. It would play most favorably to anybody who is against Michael's power.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Michael and Michael's following would be the most rowdy of the city, I think, towards Jeremy's failure to comply. So as Pepper is getting older and this condition is getting worse in her grandfather, she sees less and less of Michael. He's not there. He does not provide any medical assistance. It comes down to last going off. He'll send a note every now and then saying, "Yeah, like hope you get better," and then after, eventually those stop as well. Very, very like aggressive silence. So clearly
gosh.
he has made his decision that, he is no longer seeing Jeremy as an ally. And that basically he can fucking fend for himself because he's not going to get any help from Michael. So I feel like it would be after this that's when the letter gets sent from Pepper.
Yeah, because I imagine most of those decisions are left to Pepper as Jeremy's condition worsens, and Jeremy definitely gets more stingy and snappy about his money and things like that. So Pepper's just like, I really don't want anything to do with this, but it really feels pressured and kind of scared about the situation. So
Yeah. So when she sends that letter, it is sent to Dr. N.R. Blumenthal, who is the, I guess for lack of term, he's the head doctor of the city. He's the most talented. He has been there the longest. He was one of the original people that Michael invited down to the city for his medical expertise and his work in the field. And this doctor, Nikolaus Raymond Blumenthal, was mostly.
It's oh yeah, another Nicholas. That's right.
Yeah, and I paid Nikolaus. So Dr. Blumenthal was an extremely talented medical doctor. Hi.
Thanks so much
We
for
got
that raid, Featherfall.
Raids.
What'd you say,
Welcome in. I hope
Raven?
you had a good stream. I just said welcome.
Raiders.
Welcome in, Raiders
Excellent.
from Featherfall. Thank you so much. Hope you had a good stream. We are doing some like flashbacks into backstory stuff for our different characters for this show. Currently, we're working on one for Pepper Ann, which is Rowan's character here. Yeah, I hope you had a good stream, and thanks for coming by.
Excellent. Awesome. So, Dr. Blumenthal is an extremely talented doctor, a very exceptional man. And he oversaw like a large majority of medical procedures, just meeting with patients. Eventually, as that chaos started to come into play, and especially with cane addiction and overusage, he also kind of bled into a plastic surgeon as well, which he took very much pride in being able to restore people to their former glory. And he would even boast like, oh, they look even better than before, what they were originally before all of the symptoms. They're even better than that now. Very, very full of himself. But that pride definitely made him better at his work because there was never any issue with anything he did. So Anastasia originally started out as a nurse when she first came to Exodus, and she practiced under Dr. Blumenthal. So she was about 22 years old when she first came to the city. So she's about 28 at the time Pepper sends this letter. And at this time as well, Dr. Blumenthal is also relatively addicted to cane. And she starts seeing these symptoms in him, and it becomes an increasingly more difficult problem to deal with. But she is the one essentially who comes across this letter. Dr. Blumenthal is like, no, I'm too busy. You deal with it. You don't let this interfere with my work. You're well enough to just do whatever you need to do. Get this taken care of. So of course, she is the one who ends up going to meet with Pepper. It's very shortly after this letter is received that she makes the trip. She packs up all her instruments, any basic medications, things like that she has access to without knowing the problem, just in case. And she makes her way from the clinic, from the medical pavilion, over to the Wellevue Apartments, and makes her way up to Pepper's apartment, where she knocks on the door.
So there is barking at the door, as there's a knock on it, and there is a shout from inside. That is, Julianne, shut those damn beasts up. And the dogs quickly fall silent, and Pepper opens the door. Her eyes are kind of sunken in. She seems very, very shy as she peeks out, and she says, Hello?
Anastasia tries to give her, a very warm smile. She's, not too tall. She's not very overbearing. Her energy is, positive. And she extends her hand out so that Pepper could probably open the door, just give it a quick shake. And she smiles and she says, "Hello, little one. I am Anastasia Petrova. I'm the nurse that you called for. Can I come in?"
Um, so her look of kind of worry and suspicion changes to kind of a relief, and she nods, offers, takes her hand. She's wearing like these cute little gloves and opens the door. She wears like a very nice top kind of blouse, and a skirt that is I imagine like a suede with that the brown checkery kind of pattern.
Mm.
And yeah, she opens the door and lets her in. It's like, please, if you could be a little bit quieter, Papa, he gets agitated when there's too much noise these days. So
Anastasia just nods. She still has her smile and holds out a hand for Pepper to lead the way.
Okay. As Pepper does so, there is blood that drips down from her nose, and she wipes it away. And then she does lead the way. She's not even commenting on it.
Anastasia sees this and her smile turns to a worried expression, but she decides not to ask about it right this instant. And she follows Pepper.
As Anastasia walks through the apartment, it's not in the cleanest state. It seems whatever staff that he had on hand helping clean things has not been there. In fact, it seems that probably Pepper has been the one taking care of everything for quite a while. Who knows how long. So there are papers for the finances on the table, kind of stacked with Pepper's handwriting as she has been trying to figure it out. There's some books on the floor, some dishes in the sink. She's just seems like she's overwhelmed, but doing her best. And so she leads back to Jeremy's room and kind of stands back. Her grandfather is bedridden. There is broken dishes on the floor. It seems perhaps he threw them at some point. But otherwise he he seems to be trying to rest.
As Pepper kind of stays back, Anastasia moves into the room and sets her little bag of medications and tools and things like that on a little table by the bedside. And she clears her throat and says, "Excuse me, Mr. McGillicuddy. How are you feeling?"
At that point, he opens his eyes, takes a moment, and then yells back, "Juliet, I said I was not taking company at this time." And Pepper flinches a little. It's like, but Papa, it's a doctor. And he kind of grumbles. He's like, "I do not need to see any doctor. Why, I used to be, I'm still fit as a fiddle. I just need to rest. After all, we're leaving for Africa tomorrow." Pepper says.
Anastasia kind of keeps that smile on her face. And she nods a little bit. She's like, well, yes, absolutely, I understand. But even the healthiest of people have to have a checkup every now and then, isn't that right?
I suppose. What happened to the old doctor? The one we had on staff? Pepper's like, there wasn't any other doctor, Papa. Nonsense, I heard one just last week. It definitely seems like he's remembering some past event.
Rather than trying to pull him out of that, Anastasia just nods again and she's like, well, it seems that your doctor is busy, so I am going to help you today, and we'll make sure that you are fit as a fiddle and ready to go to Africa. Does that sound all right?
I suppose, but make it quick. After all, I am a busy man. I must do finances, and I'm just going to see some man later today about this building he's building, this a marvel of architecture, some man named Chrysler. You've probably never heard of him.
Anastasia turns to her bag and starts taking out different things. She tests like his temperature and has him, kind of lean forward out of the bed and set himself like on the bedside so that she can do an exam and all of this sort of thing. And she has a little notebook with her that she kind of like jots down notes and things. She asks him questions, just basic questions like his name, his date of birth, where he is. She kind of asks him more so about his plans. Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely doesn't remember quite where he is. He does not remember he's in Exodus. He thinks that he's in his old building in New York. Sometimes he changes his answer and says it's in California, near Hollywood, and things like that. He can't seem to have. He doesn't seem to have like a straight answer, or just remembering bits of time in different locations and not being able to remember what time he's trying to. He does go on his stories like he used to. But there is some more alarming things that goes in. He continues to ramble about his wife Julianne, and says, she got away from me once. I'm not letting her get away again. Perhaps that's very selfish of me, but she left one time and took the children, and I never saw her again. But I'm lucky. I now she stays with me here.
Anastasia doesn't do anything to dissuade any of the statements that he's making, especially when things are wrong. Like, she doesn't say, no, that's incorrect. She just kind of nods and oh, that's interesting, and things like that, so as not to like anger him or confuse him further, anything like that.
Yeah, that perfectly works. But yeah, he will go back and forth to happy story or some wild adventure of hunting lions in Madagascar to about his bitch of a wife Julianne, who left with the children and never saw again, and how lucky he was to find her again. Or he will occasionally go and talk about Pepper Ann, and that how lucky he was that he was the only living relative after the accident, but then forget that he was talking about Pepper and started going on about Julianne again. So
yeah, she continues with this for a little while. occasionally making notes in her little notebook and things like that. Records like his temperature and his breathing and checks his heart rate and everything like that, blood pressure.
Yeah, it's not good, fam. He is dehydrated. It's clear that Pepper has done her best to try to feed him, give him drink. But there's only so much one girl can do, especially since he seems very stubborn about that matter as well.
Yeah. And then at the end of everything, obviously, the signs of dehydration and stuff like that. Anastasia looks at him and she puts this stern look on her face, and clearly it's not like super serious. She's not going to scold him or anything, but she just puts this kind of stern look on her face and she goes, "Now, Mr. McGillicuddy, you have to understand that if you are to travel anymore, you have to take care of yourself, right?"
Of course, I'm fit as a fiddle.
Of course, naturally, fit as a fiddle. However, you do seem to be a little bit dehydrated, and as if you could perhaps maybe eat a little bit more, just in my professional opinion. So I tell you, if you do plan on keeping up with your travel, you've told me so many amazing stories so far. I wouldn't want you to miss out on any of that. So I need you to promise me that you are going to drink whatever water and eat whatever food is brought to you, just so that you maintain your healthiness, maintain your fitness, and you are able to continue doing what you do best. Do you understand?
I suppose, but
Mm-mm,
why the staff here certainly does not know how to cook. I need to hire a new chef.
While I understand, and while I do understand that, naturally you are a very healthy man, you have to promise me, as a professional, this is my job. You have to promise me that if I leave here today, that I will not get any more letters telling me that you are not drinking the water and eating the food that is brought to you. Do you understand?
I suppose.
If I come back here and I find that you, sir, have not listened to my instructions, then I will tell them that you are not allowed to travel. And they will listen to me because I am a healthcare professional. I know the difference. So if I tell them that you cannot go, they will not let you on plane. Do you understand?
That immediately makes him mad, and he says, "You have no right. You have no right to stop me. I'm the one with the money. I'm the one who hired you. In fact, I don't even remember hiring you. Who hired you?"
She puts her finger out to like 1 second, and she puts it close enough to him that it's like a little bit too close. And she goes, "Excuse me, sir. Correct. I was brought here to help you, and I cannot do that unless you promise that you will listen to me. Now, I am only doing what I need to do in order for you to continue to do what you do best. Do you understand? I'm not trying to be a mean person to you. I'm not trying to stop you from going places. I'm telling you that if you do not follow my instructions, that it will be impossible for you to continue what it is you do. Does that make sense?
I think I know what's best for me. You can leave now."
She kind of chuckles a little bit and starts slowly putting her stuff back in her bag. And before she leaves, she turns and she looks at him and she gives him a kind smile. And she says, "I did not mean to make you angry. But
leave immediately. Leave my home. Leave my premises. I will call the police."
She keeps that smile on her face and she doesn't move for a moment. And she says, "I understand that I have made you upset. However, if you are to continue to travel, you need to take good care of yourself. And I would like to come back one day and hear all these new adventures that you have gotten yourself into. So can you please drink water and eat food and go on adventures, and then I will come back and you can tell me all about it."
Julianne, did you bring this stranger here? dumb bitch.
Anastasia like rolls her eyes, like very visibly in front of him, just rolls her eyes. And of course, that's the same kind of attitude that she has now, even after all this time surviving in the basically the apocalypse. And she just shakes her head, and she's like, "All right, I'm leaving, but like I said, in order to do what you do, you need to listen to my advice." And then she turns and leaves.
It's
And
clear that he's not listening.
she motions for Pepper to come out into the hall with her.
Pepper kind of looks at her with wide eyes, but follows her out.
Once they're a decent distance away, that they can speak without him really knowing. She turns around and looks at Pepper and says, like, "Listen, I clearly did not go the direction that I had hoped. But especially with cases like this, where memory loss is very prominent and a lot of confusion, things like this. The one thing that you have to remember is that when he says something that is not true, don't try to correct him. Just keep moving forward. It's better to say yes and go along with it and make patients happy, and they are more inclined to do the things that you need them to do, like, drink water and eat food, the things that people need to survive. I cannot make a call right now. Obviously, I will need to come back and do some more work with him and see if we can kind of alleviate some of these symptoms that he is experiencing. But I think the most we can do right now is to keep him comfortable, and that's all really. I have a couple of ideas of what could be happening, but I think ultimately the best thing is to make comfort a priority. Don't confuse him any further, and just make sure that you take care of yourself, all right? And she kind of reaches out and taps under Pepper's chin. And then
Pepper pulls away from her touch a little.
She reaches back out and takes Pepper by the chin and turns her face to look at her, like tilts her head up to look at her nose, where it was bleeding. And
she makes an uncomfortable noise, like she's like, "Don't."
Anastasia kind of tuts at her, and then she drops her hand and she smiles, and it's a warm smile. It's not, she's not scolding Pepper. This is not what she's here for. But she does say, if you want to take care of him, you have to take care of you first. You are no good to him if you are not taken care of too. And I know it is hard and it is easier said than done. But you are important too, okay?
I understand.
She kind of taps her under the chin again once, and lets go and steps back, and then motions that she's going to walk to the door now. And then she starts going.
Yeah, the dogs join Pepper's side after she walks off, and just press close against her side. Pepper puts out a hand, and they just watch her leave. And it's the most unusual thing, because it's like they understand what's going on. Like, they don't bark at her, they don't do anything, they just watch, and it's like their eyes are intelligent, almost eerie.
Yeah, Anastasia gets to the door and she kind of looks back and looks at them, and it's puzzled for a minute. But then she looks up at Pepper and she says, "Remember, you have to rest too. Make sure you drink lots of water." And then she leaves and closes the door behind her. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I feel like they could have such a good friendship if it wasn't for, the end of the world as they know it. uh, I feel like Anastasia has a lot of sympathy for her. Obviously being a nurse and stuff like that, but just seeing her at such a young age, trying to do her best kind of resonates with her because she's young too. You know, she came to the city when she was 22 years old, fresh out of nursing school. And she just kind of came down here blindly and hoped for the best. So at the end, she does feel for Pepper, and I'm really excited to see how that continues in campaign because obviously they know each other. So how is that relationship going to change?
I guess my question is like, how often did Anastasia come before grandfather died? Grandfather's stubborn, but he's clearly not taking care of himself, and he already was kind of on the way out.
Yeah. So my thinking is, do you know any, like, have you given him an illness, any specific illness, or?
It's dementia.
Okay, that's what I thought because I was looking up the physical signs of dementia as well. So yeah, she would know, Anastasia would know that this is probably what it is, and that, you know, he's going to become more and more feeble until he can't really do much of anything really, and that's especially why she told Pepper to, like, don't try and change what he's saying, just go along with it, because in the long run it's going to be a lot easier for him to just believe
that's
what
not a problem
is.
for Pepper.
Yeah. But that's kind of like why her train of thought was like that. So I would say she probably checks in every now and then, especially just to make sure that he's, like, eating and drinking, and she'll ask him about his trip to Africa and all this stuff. But I don't think it's like an everyday checkup or anything like that.
No.
But yeah, I would say that even if they aren't super close friends or anything like that, like, they would still become familiar with each other.
Yeah. Pepper typically remains pretty quiet during the time that they're together.
Anastasia would not necessarily offer up any personal details about herself, unless Pepper asked. So you can decide what Pepper would know about Anastasia, and I can tell you.
I honestly don't know if she would know a lot, because Pepper was. It wasn't until her grandfather died that Pepper started kind of spreading her wings, and at that point, everything had fallen to hell. So probably Anastasia thought Pepper was dead.
Yeah. I'd say maybe there were a couple of occasions where Anastasia would bring, like, a fresh vase of flowers for Pepper and stuff like that. Just very, like, mom stuff.
I think the most I think the most personal Pepper got was at one point Anastasia came while she's looking through these books, these albums of these different countries and things like that. And she's like, wouldn't it be nice if I could just run away? And that's really all she said about that.
Yeah.
So I think Anastasia would know that that's probably why Pepper has these ideas of adventure in her head, because those were her escape.
Yeah.
So
I like it. I'm interested to see how this is going to make, like, interacting with each other different.
I don't know if it will.
Yeah.
Not too much.
Because up until this point, they've been pretty buddy anyway.
Yeah.
Anastasia still kept keeping an eye out for her, so.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah. I mean, probably Anastasia understands more about the plight and perhaps the abuses that Pepper has been through a little bit more, but aside from that.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right, so is there anything else you guys want to touch on, or shall we wrap it up?
I think I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, well, yeah, we will end it off there for tonight. Next week, I believe Yasmin will be back, so we will pick it up where we left off.
to go on a raid. There we go.
But yeah, Grandpa was not as nice a guy as he wants people to think.
Mm-mm. Definitely not.
So thanks, Rowan, for that resubscription.
You're welcome.
Oh, we're back.
Hi. All right, so there's the raid cry there in chat.
Excellent.
Where were we before the stream died?
Was just wrapping up.
Yeah, so we were gonna go around and talk about what we liked about the snapshots, where we can find everybody next, and anything else you'd like to add. So I think top right, we start with Riley. What was your favorite part and all that jazz?
I loved getting to get a glimpse into everybody's backstory, or like their relatives' backstory, or any of that. Like, I thought it was, I don't know, I really liked it. And I also really liked kind of getting a glimpse into the very beginning of Niklaus and Sid's relationship. Like, it was never like like this is kismet. It was just kind of like, we both need something from the other person, so like, sure.
Yep.
But also
the essence of Niklaus right there.
yes, absolutely. And I mean, that's a lot of what Sid is too. So, and then also being able to bring in just kind of show a little bit about Sid's parents, or you know, it was very interesting. Anyways, it was really fun. You can find me next on Saturday for Animus, and I'll put my links in the chat.
Awesome. All right, next we are going to Rowan.
Yes. I think my favorite part was actually getting that conversation between Michael and Jeremy. Like, you gave me chills with that villain voice. It was so good. It was so good. And then
I'm glad you liked it.
Getting into Jeremy a little and how he may be kind of a villainous individual himself. And yeah. Interesting things.
It's just a shame that these are all in the past and that they're not something that we're like currently working on. Because now that we've gotten details on these characters, I'm like, that's so interesting. I want more.
Yes.
Maybe we'll find a reason to bring them into the fold eventually.
Well, Jeremy's dead. Sorry.
Yes. Unfortunately, poor Jeremy has bit the dust. So tough news on his end. But, it's all right.
Guy kind of deserves it, but wait, what?
My goodness.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, yes. My website. So currently I'm doing pre-orders of my first palette, which is a Halloween watercolor palette. I hand make watercolors. I've been doing it for about 7 months now, 8 months maybe. But yeah, I've gotten really, really good at it, and they will come in little tins like this with little like pipettes, as well as colors that I've mixed and made myself. So for instance, like a black holographic glittery one, just a whole bunch. And it would mean a lot for people to support that and support the pre-order and support my website. And I'll put that in chat.
Awesome. Raven, would you like to go? Or will I go if you want to close out the stream?
I'll let you go first. That way I can close out the
Excellent. Sounds good. So yeah, I had a blast kind of rolling with that on the fly. It was a little bit different than usual, where I had absolutely no concept of what we were going to do going into it. So it was really, really interesting to kind of let that unfold very organically. And of course, coming up with the characters on the fly as well. Like, Michael had no intention whatsoever of ever bringing Michael into the story. But once I started playing him, I had such a clear idea in my head of what he would be. And it was just really, really fun to really ham it up with him, because he's such a like stereotypical villain. So it was really, really nice and really interesting and different from what we usually have. But other than that, you can find me. What is today? Wednesday. You can find me
It's
on
Wednesday.
Saturday for more Animus Absentis, which is really fun. You should check it out if you have the time on Saturday evening. And you can also find me on my art Twitter, which is at Peppero Draws. That's Peppero like the candy. Or you can check out my work on my my coffee page, which is coffee.com/Peppero Princess instead of Peppero Draws. Yeah, back to you, Rip.
Awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed the snapshots. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed just sitting back and listening to everybody's different backstory things and interactions. Like I said, I had a little trouble getting into Niklaus this week. Today, my brain was just like, nope, you're not going to think about character stuff. You're going to think about admin stuff with your website and store and all that junk. So with that, it was actually just really fun to kind of sit back and listen to everybody else's characters. But I did really enjoy that scene with Julian, and just Niklaus's little power play moves that he does that are really, really creepy and really fun to play.
Niklaus says something weird, and Julian's just like, yeah, and then moves on.
Yeah, I loved Julian's constant reactions of like, I'm in danger.
Yes, that's exactly what he does anytime Niklaus says literally anything.
It's so great because Niklaus isn't actually going to do anything in the moment. So it's just fun. So yeah, I enjoyed all that. You can find all of my stuff on my link tree, which is going to go in chat here in a second. Everything's is in there from Twitter, Patreon, my website, which has my portfolio for graphic art, or graphic design and composite art, such as the overlay and the background that you see here. I did all of that myself, and I do have commissions open for overlays and composite art and cover art and Zoom backgrounds and all sort of stuff like that. So you can find all that information there in the link tree. And you can find me next. Today's Wednesday, so Friday at noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern for Neon Devils. And then I'll be producing School Days that evening at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, which is a fun superhero masks game. And then we've got a one shot on Saturday at noon Mountain Time, and then Animus at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Saturday. So a lot of fun stuff. We've got our raid cry in chat there, which is fetch me a cadaver. We're gonna go raid Polish Cryptid. Fantastic person. She does a lot of tabletop stuff, and is currently playing Overwatch. So go say hi, give her a follow if you're not doing so already, and then yeah, we will see you all on Friday. Bye everybody.